where a little east of us is where you were born.
Well, I'm actually from Kentucky. No, I'm kidding. I'm from the UK.
I know it. I knew it.
Yeah. There's a little tiny hint of a British accent.
Testing. Whoa, what is that? Testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. Betty Blue blows big black bubbles. Betty bought a bit of butter, but the bit of butter Betty bought was bitter, so Betty bought a better bit of butter, and the batter was better. Many mincing maidens meandered moodily morewards. A pale pink proud peacock pompously pruned its pretty plumage. Is it still doing it, Sean? Okay, cool. Oops, can't play that. but I can play this. Wasn't bad for YouTube safe. Let's try this one.
Hello.
Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad. How are you feeling? Did you get banged,
Pretty good. Why?
Did you get banged up in that accident?
Oh, no. No, it's fine.
That's good.
Just bummed out and, waste of money.
Yeah, I forget where Carol and I were going, and I'm getting ready to turn into that Kroger. I'm like, that's Hal on a bike. What's going on?
Yeah. So the bike was in the back of the van, and everything had to come out of the van. So Stacy met me with the Jeep. I actually did get the bike in the back of the Jeep, but it was a non-trivial thing.
Okay.
So I drove the Jeep over there and then rode the bike over there. Out of the way in the parking lot. So that's what that was about.
Let me get Kirk on here.
Oh, ready?
Start doing audio testing stuff.
Hey, Kirk. How's it going?
How's it going?
Doing pretty good.
Man,
long
Kirk,
time to chat.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever, Kirk.
Yeah, it's been a long time for sure. Second.
Wow, that is a loud keyboard. Either that or your microphone.
No, it's not that loud, but
your microphone must be sitting on top of it.
That's better. So, so I know we're doing this in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to scoot upstairs and say goodnight to the kids, and I'll be back in just a second.
Alrighty.
No problem.
Okay, we're back.
Wow, your video's at a totally different angle. Your video's at a totally different angle.
Yes, I put the camera in a rational place.
Oh, okay.
Because normally my laptop is to the left of my computer. So now I'm having trouble of not knowing where to look because it's not where I normally look.
Oh, yeah.
But is the video good?
Yeah, it's really good.
Should be wonderful. It's your camera.
Yeah, it looks good. It works well in the lights you have there.
Excellent. So somebody at work had this thread in a in the bug tracker or internal bug tracker. It essentially it's a Linux is better than Windows is like the topic of the bug.
Yeah, that's
not really.
Probably not working out.
Simplifying it.
Oh, okay.
What?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm boiling it down to things I feel like I'm comfortable to share, but so this guy is going into great detail about how it's easier to do things on Linux and Windows. No problem. So I was just talking about this this defect I'm going through in our bug tracker system. That in essence, it's a Linux guy talking about how much better it is to do things on Linux, and he he's got some real reasons. Like he's not totally blowing smoke, but he's like opening files is expensive on Windows, creating processes is expensive on Windows. He's going into these kind of architectural things about the different OSs, and basically rationalizing performance differences and characteristics in our software. It's pretty interesting stuff. But he goes down here and he says, and then there's the awkwardness issues. For troubleshooting, it's just vastly superior to log into the shell, meaning bash, and poke around. And then he says, theoretically, PowerShell or DOS could offer many of the same tools, but how do you do this? And then he spits out a bit of bash script to, just do some stuff, go through a directory and do some stuff. And I'm looking at it, it's not that complex. It's just a few lines, and it's got like sed in there and whatever. But now I have to stop whatever it was that I was doing and port that to PowerShell and then reply to his comment.
Right, yeah.
That's what I was doing right now. So I can't not respond to him,
I'm going to try something to see if I can fix the audio and video being out of sync, but you may lose audio for a minute, but don't panic. It's expected.
Okay. All right.
Actually, don't see any video from you guys.
You wouldn't.
Okay.
Unless you're on the live site. That's also normal. Okay.
There we go. Okay, I see everybody now. Excellent.
Okay, let's see if that makes a difference. Wow, it did make a difference.
Cool.
Yeah. Kirk, are you still there?
I'm still here, yeah.
Okay, good.
I know in the past you've had some issues with my audio setup. How's the background noise?
It's fine when you're not typing.
Okay, I won't be typing. I'll try not to type. You guys are both going to the summit next month?
I don't think I'm going to be able to go, but it's still unclear.
Okay.
Oh, no. Hope to see you.
But maybe I'll get to go to the PowerShell Summit instead.
Yeah, if you got to pick one. When is the PowerShell Summit?
It's in April. See, I've got noise coming from Hal. Why isn't that being
I hear nothing.
Gated out?
I hear nothing. I sound just fine to me.
Do I have like 30 seconds to grab a glass of water? Because whenever I start talking a lot, my voice dries right out.
Absolutely.
Okay, be right back.
Actually, that's all coming from Kurt.
Figures.
I can gate it out, though.
I thought that Apple did not make server hardware anymore.
I think that's true. They may still do... of course, I don't know, because I heard about some kind of hosting site that ran on all Mac server stuff, but maybe it's old. I don't know.
Yeah, that's silly. You don't run servers on Mac. That's just silly.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't understand.
Sorry, dude. You don't do it. It's not done. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to do like a literal translation of the script, and then I'm going to go through and see if it makes sense to, kind of PowerShellize it.
Some bash scripts are very, very difficult to figure out how to translate. I was looking at one the other day.
Yeah. Well, this one took me several minutes to figure out. Like sed, I know what sed does at a high level. I never remember the syntax, but I know what it does. And I went and looked at this this command line, and it has like a hash mark symbol, or a hash symbol in it. And it has it not where I'd expected it to be, and it took me a while to figure out that apparently you can escape. Wait a second. You can use hash marks as your delimiter instead of slashes if you want to use slashes in your string. So it's just I guess it's sort of kind of like switching out single and double quotes or something like that.
Okay.
But I didn't know that you could do that, so it was really odd. So that's the thing about the Linux Unix approach to things, where sure, sed will let you do that, but the next command won't. Whereas, PowerShell, it's going to be much more consistent for those types of things. I should have got some water too. All I have is drink.
A fun script that I've been trying to translate. Tried a while back. I need to pick it up again, and was trying to translate into PowerShell. And it's basically to take the approved SSH site list that is in your registry and to convert it to so that it's recognized also by plink. So that you can use SSH or plink, and you can approve a site once. You have to approve it in both spots, and just add the list properly.
Yeah, like putty agent stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and grabbing the list of the sites out of the register or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they each have their own way of doing it, of course, because people can't share. So, I'm just trying to set it up so that I can do it in PowerShell since I have all the rest of the stuff working in PowerShell.
Good plan. Wait, why did that open that? It did not mean to open that. Jonathan, did you come back? Did you leave?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Kirk, do you have a headset?
I do not. I haven't had a headset for quite a while. I think one of my kids took it and it broke, or it's been quite a while. I can always go with using headphones and just cut off the speakers if that's what you're looking for.
I don't think that'll make a difference because I'm not hearing like an echo. It just gets noisy when you type.
Okay, I'm only typing because I want to just throw some notes into Notepad so that I have them actually to refer to.
Okay.
But I won't be typing during the show, I don't think.
Yep, we should be fine then.
Would I be Leonard? If we were doing a Big Bang Theory cosplay, I would be Leonard apparently. I guess that's all right. I could do Leonard.
I don't know. I haven't actually watched that show.
Really? Never?
Yeah.
I don't watch TV that much, but
yeah, I don't either.
I've seen several episodes of it. Decent. It's good for a sitcom. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I guess I haven't really watched a sitcom in a while. At least not like a one that wasn't made a long time ago.
Yep. So, are we ready to go?
Yeah, I think we're good. As soon as when Kirk's ready, I think we should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, I should be good now.
I made show notes.
Wow, we've got everybody on video, and it's synced up. So that was interesting. It's a difference in the audio repeaters I'm using with the virtual audio cables. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why the KS works better, but it does, so whatever. If it works, that's fine.
Okay. It's up to you, man. Okay. Then let us focus on the thing. Hold on a second. Let me go yell at the other in the PowerShell chat room.
Who's Wallowitz?
I should open up the window just so I can see the chat too.
I'll have to ask my sister about that. She watches that show.
Okay. Ready to go. So let me see here. Got the show notes. And, all right, cool. Tonight on the PowerScripting Podcast, we are pleased to have with us, back again, Kirk Monroe. Hello, Kirk.
Hey, Al, how you doing?
Pretty good. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Been a long time.
Yeah, I should look it up. I never remembered to do that until it comes up. But, you know, it's funny because it comes up every single time. So I really should know better by now. Oh, let's see. I'm searching. 189. Surely it was more recently than 189. 189 was, when was that? I have to scroll to the bottom. This was posted on June 19th, 2012. We had to have had you on more recently than that.
2012. That's a long, long time ago.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. We'll keep looking. But anyway,
Sure.
For people who have not caught up and don't know who you are, longtime PowerShell MVP, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm, like you mentioned, a PowerShell MVP. I've been PowerShell MVP for 7 years going so far. Hopefully going to be 8 soon because I'm up for the next reward cycle. And I got into PowerShell back when I used to do software development, working a lot with protocols like MAPI and LDAP, and finding things horribly inconsistent, and didn't like having to work my head into the mental model of each different programmer's API that I came across. And so PowerShell kind of grabbed my attention because it was consistent and reliable, and I could make intelligent guesses, and I'd be right most of the time, and it was just a big game changer for me, and so that kind of drew me into it. And at the same time, as I was getting drawn into PowerShell, Quest had a product that started up because they used to work with Quest software called PowerGUI. And so I got tied into that team and worked with them for 6 years, I guess. Going in as dev and then architect and then product manager before Quest stopped really doing anything seriously with PowerGUI. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've been involved in various other projects. Dev Farms, PowerWF, and PowerSE years back, and often working on modules and scripts and trying to share those with the community and do presentations when I can, and I guess that brings me to today. And so now I'm working for a company called Provence Technologies, and we do asset management. Specifically, we have an asset management product that plugs into Microsoft System Center Service Manager. And so it gives you tools to manage hardware and software assets, make sure that you're leveraging the assets and aware of the assets that you have, and you have the proper licenses deployed, see where you're overextended or underextended on your licensing, know when things are coming up for renewal on leases and whatnot, and give you a big picture of your assets in your organization. And so I've been working with them for the past year in a role as technical product manager and doing a lot of stuff internally with PowerShell and API level work.
Awesome. So, is there much PowerShell in the work that you're doing at Provence with that product?
It's growing. Yeah, so it's growing. It started out, they knew about PowerShell, but weren't doing a lot with PowerShell before they hired me into the organization. They knew it was important, and they were trying to figure out ways to leverage it and get more value from it in the product. and then they brought me in, and so I've been, of course, infecting the other people with PowerShell and the ways that we can take advantage of it and do more things with it, ways we can tie in automation, how we can use PowerShell at an API level to allow customers to do cool things with our products through PowerShell commands that we put together, and then allow them to plug other sources into Service Manager, and also, of course, using it through support purposes, because it's a big tie-in through support too.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. Service Manager is the basically service desk tool, right? You open tickets, you request services, that type of thing, and then it
correct
hooks into the.
Yes.
I think we've had only brief mention of it on the podcast in the past. It's come up before, but just not that often.
Sure.
But let's see. Does it also handle things like a catalog of services that you would order from?
So it does. So I mean, it'll handle a bunch of different things because it's really a platform, right? So I mean, every company that I talk to seems to be doing different things in the Service Manager in different ways, and it pulls in data from Active Directory to get your user information. It pulls in information from ConfigMan to get in your configuration data that you discover in your organization, and then you can do a lot of different things with it because it's a very full-featured platform that you can just create extensions, which are basically management packs. Because under the covers, Service Manager was built from the same code base that OpsMan was built from, which uses management packs as the extension point. And so it has a lot of that capability built in. They get a head start that way.
So does it actually have an agent that runs on clients, or is it relying on other systems to pull in the data, and it's doing the aggregation and analysis of that data?
Yes, it's relying on other systems to pull in the data through connectors.
Okay.
And then it manages the service management side of that. So it will change requests, service requests, problems, incidents, those things that come up in your organization, and being able to relate those to specific pieces of hardware or specific individuals through the aggregate information that it pulls in from other sources.
Okay, is that where Provence comes in?
So Provence comes in as a management pack. We plug into it as a management pack. We work with configuration data that is pulled in from ConfigMan, and we extend that. Well, extend is not the right word. We add additional information that you can associate with your configuration data. So ConfigMan discovers and manages your computers that you have in the organization and software that you install on those computers, and the connector pulls that information into Service Manager, and then but it doesn't manage it. It doesn't provide a view in terms of asset management, in terms of big picture, looking at licensing and financial information out of the box. Service Manager doesn't have this stuff, and so we give you that view. We give you a view into your hardware assets and your software assets, and allow you to figure out where you're overspending versus underspending, and how you could reprovision different things, and provide reporting on top of that, because Service Manager has a reporting layer built into it, and so we extend the reporting system as well with asset reporting information.
So does it actually provide a way to reclaim licenses, or reach out to uninstall software or anything like that?
Actually doing the uninstalls?
Yes, because I know that there are some tools that do that.
Well, so what we do is we don't actually go out and change the configuration on the systems. We'll discover the places where you are using too much or using too little, show you how maybe based on licenses you have, upgrades and downgrades are available to you, and that would maybe reduce your overall expenses on the licenses in the environment, and then you'd have to go and actually put that in place. Okay. It doesn't go so far as to actually do the deployment side of the fence and to manage that.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So it's interesting because I don't know, it's one of those things that generally, unless you're in the finance side or working as an asset manager, you don't necessarily worry too much about that, because you just work in an organization where somebody's taking care of that for you. But it's definitely an interesting field to work in because it gives you a different perspective on the problems that are in that space and creative ways that you can solve those.
So
one time that I had to deal with licenses was regarding software licenses, in particular VMware and MSDN. I had to handle some of those things at one of the companies I was with in the past. Kind of a pain, actually.
Yeah, I heard Microsoft licensing in particular can be difficult to understand.
You really don't realize how complex it is until you get into the weeds and try to figure it out, and then understanding it and managing it from a software level. And different companies have different license schemes, and some of them just are quite challenging for sure. It's not an easy thing to figure out, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't deal with the problem until they get a knock on the door from KPMG or some auditor that says, we're coming by to do an audit of your environment, and then you're up to your neck in quickly figuring all this stuff out so that you can make sure you pass the audit without getting hit with steep fines. So that's where asset management software comes in. Helps you manage that stuff ahead of time, or sometimes people bring it in at the point where they're doing an audit, and then we can help them work out exactly what they have and make sure they're in compliance as the audit's going through.
All right, sounds good. So let's get to the reason that we had you on. Say people might be thinking, okay, we've heard your pitch about your software, but that's actually not what we brought you here for, is it, Kirk?
No, not at all. No, I mean that's what I do as
there's
my
lots
day
of
job.
news lately. Yeah, no, it's interesting also, and but what we have going on now, of course, is lots of news in the Windows world. New builds of WMF coming out, new versions of Windows coming out, and we spent a little bit of time in the past, maybe a few months ago now, when Joel hit on some stuff that he was working on, but we haven't really focused on what is in the what's coming in the features of PowerShell 5. So wanted to give you a chance. You were interested in talking about PowerShell Get, right?
Yeah, that's correct. PowerShell Get.
So
is
why don't you just take us through the overview, and we'll just kind of go through it.
Sure. So it's by far, so far anyway, I mean I can change over time, but by far right now it's my favorite feature that is coming in PowerShell version 5, because it to me is the one that is the biggest opportunity that I've been waiting for PowerShell to have. It fills a big gap. So PowerShell is all about providing a platform, great glue, really, that you can tie systems together. You can do DevOps of your environment, works with all different platforms under the sun, including third-party environments. That's all great. And then you can build on top of that platform, and you can build scripts, and then you can build script libraries, and then over time you can evolve those into modules, which for somebody who doesn't know is basically it's PowerShell's equivalent of a DLL. It's a library. It's a package of PowerShell commands that you can ship as a whole, and you consume modules from all the different companies and partner teams that provide PowerShell support for their tools. And so I love creating modules. I create modules all the time, and I've got a ton of cool modules I'm working on right now that I'm just itching to get out there and share with people, because they add huge value to the work that I do, and I want to share that with the rest of the community, and then blog and evangelize about them. And PowerShell Get makes that a lot easier for me, because PowerShell Get is package management for modules. So ever since modules came out in version 2, they didn't really have a great way to share them other than throw them up on Codeplex or GitHub or on your blog or in the TechNet gallery.
Right.
Pick a place.
But the comparison
to
back in the day to snap-ins was the benefit, right? I mean, it was an Xcopy install, so you didn't need to install them. So, right. But you still have you have to worry about multiple sets of files, maybe metadata. What are some of the problems here that PowerShell Get is solving?
So modules, basically, it's just a file structure. You use top-level folder, which is the name of the module, and then a bunch of stuff underneath it that the module uses, and which, of course, like you say, you could Xcopy deploy. But unless you're a company that's created a module that you install with a product, in which case people don't have to go looking for it, if you're individuals, if you're a member of the community, and you want to share content that you've put together as modules with other people, like most tech communities out there want to do. There's no go-to way to do that without PowerShell Get. PowerShell Get solves that problem by giving you a common public repository that you can push modules into and find modules other people have created and shared in this repository, and then download them and install them and update them, just like you would do, just like you update help, right? I mean, if you're using PowerShell and you want to check if there's new help, you can just run update-help. If you're using PowerShell Get and you want to update the modules that you got from PowerShell Get, you can just use update-module. So it's solving those problems, the problems of distribution, of packaging. I mean, you don't have to think about putting it into a zip file. You just point the commandlet, which is publish-module, to either the module name or the path on your system where you have the module available, and it'll just push it up into the repo of your choice. And the problems it solves goes even larger than that, because you've got public sharing, which is great, and lots of communities have had that for a while. I mean, Ruby has Ruby Gems, and there's just different repositories, different ways that people can share packages with the rest of the community that works in that language, in these different languages like Ruby and JavaScript and Python and whatnot. But PowerShell has had Posh code that Joel put together, which is great. But it hasn't had something that's come from Microsoft baked into the product as being the de facto way that you would share these things that people can discover and use easily. And so it's been a third-party solution, which, like I say, is great. I'm not.
So let me interrupt for 1 second. Is PS? Okay, now I'm just messing myself up. PowerShell Get. Is it for PowerShell modules only?
Right now, yes. Right now, It's PowerShell modules. Because if you look at the commands, I have it here on my screen beside me, the commands that it has in there are find module, install module, publish module, and update module. So, there's more commands than that I'll get to in a second, but in terms of actually sharing PowerShell content, right now, it's about sharing modules, which is not a big deal. For me, personally, it's not a big deal. I mean, because modules are my preferred way of sharing stuff anyway, because it's a logical grouping of related functionality that gets all the benefits that modules get you, right? I mean, if you have scripts and you share scripts with people, they can download those scripts and either dot source them or invoke them with the call operator and then consume just that script. But scripts may be dependent on other scripts, and trying to relate those together into a package may be complicated depending on how you put things together, and modules kind of just gives you the vehicle for doing all of that. So for me, I think it's great that it supports modules. I mean, in the future, who knows what they're going to have. If they have script support too, then yay, but right now, it's modules.
Gotcha. So we've got Joel in the chat room chiming in with a couple things. He was mentioning how don't compare this to CPAN, because CPAN is kind of a community with a framework with rules, whereas PowerShell Get is kind of the mechanics of how you might share that code. And I guess by the box, out of the box, it is connecting to a repository hosted by Microsoft. Do you want to go into any more detail there?
Sure. So it's a foundation, and it's a V1 PowerShell Get feature that comes in the next version of PowerShell, and it has by default it connects to a public repository. You can create private repositories, and there's commands for doing that in the latest version of Windows, the CTP, and both in the Windows Server CTP, whatever that ends up being called, and in Windows 10 CTP. They both have it baked into it, as well as the PowerShell v5 September preview, I think, has all of these commands, although to be honest, I haven't checked and compared and contrast each of the
because there was a drop out, I think in May was the first time that PowerShell Get was seen publicly.
Yes. And I don't think that had, if I recall, I don't think that had the public-private repo stuff worked out yet. But anyway, so now there's this notion of registering repositories, which is great if you're an organization and you have stuff that you want to distribute and manage internally in your organization. And I know some very large organizations that have rolled their own stuff over the years doing that. And this just is the vehicle to, I guess, allow you to get jumpstart on that work, because it gives you a way to register repositories that you have set up. And once you've registered those, then when you go looking for modules, it'll try to find modules in all the repositories that you're connected to.
So how does that registration process work? I haven't seen that yet.
So, well, there's a command. So right now, this is from the Windows Server v.next build that I have in my system next to me. It's there's 8 commands in PowerShell get. 4 are based on module deployment, and then download and update, and also discovery. Okay. So it's got find module. Then you can, once you find one, then you can run install-module to install it. Once it's installed, if there's an update, you can run update-module to update it. And of course, if you created something that you want to push out to the cloud or out to a private repository, there is publish-module. And then there's 4 commands for working with repositories, which are get PS repository, set PS repository, and then register and unregister. So get gives me lists of repositories that I have in my environment. Set allows me to add repositories to my environment, and I'm just going to look because you asked. I haven't actually cracked open the help for this command yet. Register PS repository. Of course, tab completion is working really slow. But anyway, there are commands here that allow you to register a repository for your environment, and of course, it's too new to have help.
Okay. Yeah, I just wonder how the registration works, right? Because the repository is essentially just a file share, or is it done all over HTTP or HTTPS?
So it's all the pushing your modules into the cloud and pulling that down. That's all done through HTTP, through REST, and I think it's using REST endpoint behind the scenes. I know that's using invoke. The invoke web request command in behind the scenes in the earlier versions. And so I'm pretty sure this version uses the same. And then these repositories. Actually, one thing earlier, Hal, you mentioned a whole bunch of different gets when you were talking about trying to come up with saying PowerShell get. PowerShell get in Windows Server v.next is built on top of OneGet. It leverages OneGet on the back end. And OneGet, for those who don't know what that is, that's package management not specific to PowerShell. So PowerShell get is basically fine-tuned package management. I care about PowerShell stuff that gives me a vehicle and discovery point to get that filtered view. OneGet is larger than that, more like chocolatey, which is package management for Windows packages. And
it gets confusing because chocolatey actually is related into how OneGet works as well.
Yes, and so it gets very confusing, and I'm not 100% sure I have my head wrapped around it either. So I'll dodge talking about it in too much detail for trying to avoid confusing the other people who are there as well, because I am trying to put all the pieces together and understand between NuGet and OneGet and chocolatey and PowerShell get what each of these things mean and how they all fit together, because a lot of them are very closely related.
Yeah, now I tried to abbreviate PowerShell get with PS get, and then Joel's reminded me you can't say that either because that was a different one. There were like 2 or 3 different. PS get actually
exists. PS get's been around for a little while, and that's a different package management that leverages behind the scenes. I think they're leveraging NuGet as well. So so there's a lot of time being spent for package management.
The repository and the NuGet is a part of the basis for the format of the repository and the packages, right?
Correct.
So documentation, which is out there in the wild about working with NuGet packages, a little bit of that may apply to what admins might encounter when they're setting up their own repository, to share internal scripts or packages or whatever.
Yes, there is a procedure to follow. I know I was reading something about it fairly recently.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't have the article here in front of me right now, but I know I was reading about steps to set up. Oh, wait a minute. I actually might have it here in front of me right now. 1 second. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so in the README notes right now for the PSV5 September preview. So if you search for WMF5 September preview on the web right now, there's a couple of things you can download. There's the x64 and x86 builds, as well as a README. And if you go in the README, just do search for PowerShell Get, there's a section that says register APS repository with PowerShell Get. Talks about the commands, gives examples, and then shows how to, once it's set up, how you discover it, and then working with it using the find modules and install module.
Okay. So once you get that repository set up, from that point forward, you'll use the same commandlets, regardless of where the repository is.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Which is great. It's exactly what I would want, right? Because that allows all sorts of different things. That allows companies to set up private repos for internal or external use. Maybe they require some credential to get access to them, and people to be able to just, once they've set that connection up and they've registered themselves with that as an endpoint that they care about, then being able to go and find the modules that are out there for them, regardless of what repository they come from.
Do you know if there's any sort of repository management that's required? Like, is there versioning and stuff that happens in the repository so that the client knows when it, if it does an update module, it knows there's a new version of the module available? Or is that based on file dates, or how does that work?
No, it's based on using the version number that's in the PSD1 file.
Oh, okay,
You can't upload a module into PowerShell Get right now unless it actually has a PSD1 file. And when you try to upload a module, and this is great for people who have dealt with the pain that they change a module and they forget to flip the version number, when you try to upload it, it'll check the version and see what's already up there, and it won't let you upload if you haven't upgraded the version number. So it makes sure that you are going through revisioning over time, and you can actually go into any module on the library, and you guys should also put in the show notes the PowerShell Get repo, because you can just browse that using your web browser. And
okay. Where is that? Let's find that URL, because I want to include that, because I was searching for it and wasn't.
Yeah, I could actually get it here. I had it here just a minute ago.
Paste that somewhere. We'll get that in the show notes.
Where is it? PowerShell Get repo. I'll find that in a second to make sure you guys have it in the show notes. But anyway, you can get in there and you can browse versions, and you can just browse through the content that's available on the site. And it's great that there are versions, because you might create a module that you build to work with a certain version, and maybe it requires that version and not a later version due to a compatibility issue or whatever. So it allows you to still have access over time to old versions if you want to, if you've taken hard dependencies on those, if you create business processes in your environment that are using those versions. It gives you access to protect that and to keep those dependencies around. So,
or if the module gets updated and it's using commandlets from version 5 and your environment's all version 4, so you need to use the version in the module that was written on 4, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so when you actually run, let me flip back to my PowerShell window, if you run install -module, there's a version parameter on that, and that allows you to specify what version you want to install.
That's
so
great.
You can actually make sure you get the right one from the deployment. For exactly that reason, there's today we've got PowerShell versions 2, 3, and 4 available. Version 5 is around the corner, so you absolutely have to think about what versions the modules support, and somebody might upgrade them to a certain point where they lose compatibility with one of the older ones when it's important to you. So you can go back and get that old content that's there. Actually, you bring up an interesting point by mentioning that too. You can learn a lot from, there's no help files for this stuff just yet, but you can learn a lot from the fact that the PowerShell Get module, as well as the OneGet module that it is dependent on, both of which are in the Windows CTP, are script modules.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Well, Microsoft usually pushes out, compiled modules, black box. You can't see what's going on inside. But these are script modules, and you can get in there and learn how they're working, and there's all sorts of interesting things that you can discover. I was poking around in there today, and I noticed in the manifest of PowerShell Get that it shows it requires PowerShell version 3. And in the manifest of OneGet, it shows that it requires PowerShell version 2. I'm not sure, since these are in CTB, if that's actually what they're built for. If that's an oversight, I'm not sure. But I was able to take them as an experiment. Not a long experiment. I haven't gone too far with this yet. I was able to take them out of my Windows Server CTP, Xcopy, paste them on my local system, which is running Windows 8.1 and version 4, and I've been able to find modules so far, and I've been able to get my repositories that I'm connected to. And so up front, the simple stuff looks like it's working. I haven't gone to check out the publishing side of the fence yet. That's next to my list of things to do, see if I can push a module out there using this and see if it works. That's, of course, I guess, hacking. But it's I just was curious to see, based on the information that was in those manifest files, if they would actually work on down-level stuff. Because with this being such an important feature to me, I'm hoping it will, because I will definitely leverage it and use it, even if I'm not working on the latest and greatest.
That's nice.
So I'm wondering if there's going to be much of a fragmentation of multiple repositories. Are we going to see the Microsoft repository be obviously the things that Microsoft produces? They've got, I see all their DSC modules in here, which is actually perfect. That's where I want to see them. But I wonder if we're going to see, multiple other repositories.
I would doubt it. I would be surprised. Because I don't think it makes any sense. You're thinking, different providers or different companies having their own repository because it's not a Microsoft one or I don't know. But
yeah,
I would be surprised.
Yeah.
Because the benefits that other programming communities have gotten from one repository to be able to get this stuff and one framework to be able to pull down, and install and then update, the benefits of that outweigh any kind of, in my opinion, benefits you might get from having the fragmented, you didn't connect to that repository, that's why you didn't find that module, that kind of issue. So I would hope that if you're going to make it public, you would just throw it up on the PowerShell Git repository, because it's about PowerShell and it's about discovery, and you want to offer it to everybody that's using PowerShell. And out of the box, they're connected to it. So with this new release out of the box, they can just see it automatically. They do find module and do a wildcard search or enter the name of the module they're using for, and if it's up there, then the results will come back, and they'll be able to find it and use it.
But probably internal repositories would be a totally different sort of use case. I can see those being, quite popular.
I've even thought of using one. I've got some stuff some modules that I use that's specific to our product, that's used for support purposes, and deploying modules for people who aren't necessarily familiar with PowerShell can be just a little bit of a hurdle, and PowerShell Get would make things easier if that vehicle is available. But yet those modules don't make sense for me to put them out there for the whole community, because they're very specific to our customers who are using our product. So in that case, I love the idea of having a private repo that I could direct those customers to connect to and be able to pull the bits from there, rather than putting it out there and where it doesn't apply.
Yeah, I could see. Cool. I could even see putting DSC resources in a repository like that, because if you're testing something with a push configuration and you're using custom modules, you need to have those on the box first, so you could just pull them down from your internal repository and run your configuration on that box.
Absolutely.
Which should be a handy way to do it.
Or even when you're dealing with runbook automation, so working with System Center Service Manager, I also work a lot with SMA, and working with runbook automation, if you're dealing with SMA and your SMA has agents, right? So SMA is the new orchestration engine that's part of System Center Orchestrator, and it is all based on PowerShell workflow. And you have multiple agents deployed to different systems to allow you to scale out the load across your environment. And if those agents are going to run a workflow, or runbook, I should say, which is a PowerShell workflow, and that workflow has a dependency on a module, then wouldn't it be great if it would just be able to, if it doesn't have it, or just run update module or pull it down so it automatically has the module on the system using PowerShell Get from public or private repo, right, in both cases.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be very handy.
I've seen other people do solutions where they'll create a workflow to push modules out to those systems. So there, as all this stuff, there's pull solutions and push solutions. But I think PowerShell Get and the idea of a private repo.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago about PSD files, PSD1 files, how there's metadata in them that's read. So are there new features in the PowerShell commandlet new module manifest which kind of support some of these things?
So not the way you would expect, and I'm just going based on. So let me crack open the file here. Based on what I can see inside of the PSD or inside of the PSM1 file, I wanted to check out and see what was possible. So if I open up PowerShell Get's PSM1 file, which ironically right now is called psget.psm1, but don't let that confuse you. Inside of there, I was poking around to see, is it looking at new manifest information? And it's not. The only thing that I have seen, let me find that again, because I want to speak to the code, is that they've added stuff, they're doing some stuff with private data. So module manifests have a lot of stuff that's been around since the first version, and then they've added a few things. So since version 1 or version 2 of PowerShell, when modules were added, they've had the version number, the name, company, the identification stuff for the module, anything details about requirements, whether it's required modules or assemblies, scripts that you want it to run, functions that it contains or exposes, or commandlets or aliases, all that stuff that describe how the module works. And then at the bottom of all that, something that I think I used maybe once before, but I never really paid much attention to, they have this private data field, which is just basically a spot to throw stuff that might be particular to your module or the reason that you're using it. And so right now it's just generic. You can put any object in, but right here in the code, they're checking to see if it's a hash table, and if it's a hash table, they're checking to see if it has PS data as a key, and inside of that key, they're looking at fields. They're looking at tags, release notes, license URI, icon URI, and project URI. So those fields, if you look at PowerShell Get and modules that are posted up there, you can set tags on modules that you post on PowerShell Get in the repo. You can put release notes. You can specify a URI for the license that you're applying, whether it's based on Apache or GPL or whatever library that you end up using. And then there's a project URI, so you can refer somewhere. Like I've got some up there that are pointing off to GitHub page where the project is actually described, and an icon URI. So it seems like this is a vehicle, and I haven't actually tested this because when I posted my modules before, I published them, and then I added this information after the fact using the web UI. It seems like this gives me a vehicle for doing it as one action, just push it out there with these fields populated so that I don't have to worry about doing it manually through the web UI. That's the only thing.
Okay, gotcha. So those other fields sound like they would support, kind of the rich browsing interface that you would expect on a web front end.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's exactly right. And so they're more descriptive data, but they're not particular to a module. They're particular to a module hosted in PowerShell Get. So it makes sense that it's not fogging up the PSD1 data that's core to the module, but it actually is private data. It makes sense. It's private data that is specific to PowerShell Get and the information that it needs. So I'm glad they did that that way, because there's an issue with if you go from PowerShell version 2 to PowerShell version 3, when they first added updatable help, they extended the module manifest when they did that, and that causes some confusion when somebody's using PowerShell version 2 and they try to import a module that maybe would work on PowerShell version 2, but because of how they created it, the manifest might have this field that PowerShell version 2 doesn't know what to do. And so it just throws up an error that doesn't really say, this module wasn't designed for PowerShell version 2. The error says, I don't know what this help URI, or I forget what it is, but whatever the field is they have for update help, updatable help. And so it's just getting away from that kind of thing and trying to keep the manifest framework the way it is something that I think scales better across multiple PowerShell versions.
Awesome. So there was a little bit of talk in the chat room about how you can specify multiple repositories and how it handles it. Have you played with that at all yet?
Yeah, so just a little bit. So if I go, I'll forget my notes from my keyboard. I'll try to type quietly.
It's not that
if
bad.
I run get PS repository right now, I can see by default I am connected to 2 different galleries. I haven't done anything to set this up. This is just out of the box. I'm connected to what's called the PS gallery. Oh, and there's the URI. Did you find it, by the way? I have it here.
Yeah. It looks like maybe it's a temporary URI, but we do see it. It's msconfig.gallery.cloudapp.net.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so that's the PS gallery, and then there is a MSPS gallery, which right now just points to Microsoft.com. Now, I don't know what behind the scenes what that's doing, maybe based on how it makes the request, but those are the 2 that are there by default. Presumably, it doesn't ask me when I say I want to find a module, it doesn't ask me which gallery I'm using. And is there a parameter for the repository? Let me see. I can specify repository and find module, but I would wager, without digging in too much, that it's going to look at all the ones I'm connected to by default, unless I tell it specifically I want to focus on a particular one, just because that's generally the way PowerShell commands seem to work, going for broader scope, unless you want to narrow it down through parameters.
Gotcha. All right. So let's see. So we covered a good amount of features here. So PowerShell Get, only for PowerShell modules. Contrast that to OneGet, which is for arbitrary software. And lots of new commandlets. So everybody needs to check out to get the latest version, you check out the Windows 10 preview.
Correct.
If you want the less change, if you want to, the lower barrier of entry would be to grab the September build of WMF5.
Yes.
Which we determined there are some differences.
Yes, maybe some differences, because there is a slight difference in the version number. I don't know what the technical differences are between those 2. But if you do compare the version numbers, one ends in 14 and the other one ends in 41. So there's been a few builds between the 2 different versions, with the Windows 10 CTP stuff being newer. Of course, a nice low barrier to entry to this stuff is that if you are an Azure customer, you can throw Windows Server v.next into an Azure VM and not have to worry about downloading bits and trying to set it up yourself. Just get it that way and then start playing around with it right off the bat. That's how I've been doing it.
Good point.
Yeah, I think that's the lowest barrier to entry of all, because you don't have to worry about. Before that, I was using Azure to set up a Server 2012 box and then downloading the September CTP and then upgrading myself. But this just fire up the VM and then you can get busy.
Shoot.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to have some way to dynamically update that too going forward, is the impression I got.
Way to dynamically update what?
Windows 10.
Yeah, I've heard some buzz about that as well. That's the impression I've gotten as well. Remains to be seen, but that's encouraging anyway. It'd be nice to see updates come more easily instead of take down and rebuild.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know if that means like we'll get newer build numbers to that extent, or what that actually means, but should be interesting.
For people who are just getting started with this PowerShell Get, a few things worth noting. You don't have to. You can upload modules into PowerShell Get that aren't version 5. You don't have to create a module and have it be version 5 specific and upload that version. None of the modules that I have posted on PowerShell Get are version 5. Right now I've got 2 up there. I've got, I think, 5 more in the wings that are on the verge of publication. I'm just waiting for an updated code signing certificate, so then I can sign those files and push them up. So yeah, I've been pushing up modules that are version 2 plus compatible, depending on which module I put up and what features it has. And so I encourage you to not only try out PowerShell Get for its capability for publishing, but take a look at the modules that are in there, because there's some great value. If you happen to work with SCSM, Service Manager, there's a module up there that I pushed out called SCSM PX. Typically, all the modules that I'm creating these days, I'm ending with PX. And so,
ending with PX?
Yes. For a couple of reasons. PX, because it's PowerShell extensions, it gives me a bit of uniqueness and, I guess, recognition or standardization across the modules I have. I've got 6 modules here in front of me. No, 5 right now. And then PX. And also because it looks a lot like RX, which is a remedy. A lot of these things I feel like are a remedy for a problem. RX, like you might see on medicine that you get from the pharmacy. And so I just like the look of it, and I also like the dropping a suffix on there just to make it, I guess, a common aspect of the names of the modules that I put out there. So there's SCSM PX, and that module contains 150 SCSM commands that you don't get natively out of the box. Out of the box, you get 110 or something. So I think between the two combined, it'll make your command surface for SCSM more than double to 260 commands for working with SCSM. And it solves some problems in SCSM because the SCSM team they weren't proper PowerShell citizens when they created their modules and put them in their product and set up the installer, because they do nothing with discoverability from your PS module path environment variable. And so you either have to manually load them or manually update PS module path. And manual loading works, but the manual update via PS module path is a pain because of the file structure that they chose to use. It doesn't conform to how PowerShells actually are discoverable. And so if you want to work with SCSM and PowerShell and you give SCSM PX a try, it exposes the entire surface of 260 commands, even though it only has 150 in it, and it will load automatically the SCSM modules behind the scenes. So it fixes the discoverability problem by providing a shim over all those built-in core commands and then adding value to it to fill in the gaps where there are lots of them. And that's a command set that's growing quite rapidly. So that's one that I've been working on that's out there now, and you can find that on PowerShell community, the PowerShell Git repository, I should say. And then I'm also working on one for SMA, because SMA has some gaps to fill in their native command set. And so I've got my own SMA module that fixes a lot of the issues that it has and adds some commands that were missing from that I really wanted to see in that product. And then I'm working on some other ones that are personally, I think, much cooler than those product-specific ones, just because of, I guess, usefulness. I've got one module that has 2 commands in it, and I use it more than any module I have, because those 2 commands are used in every single script and module that I write. And that's the one that I'm really keen on publishing, and I'm trying to get out for, well, I was hoping to get it out for the call today, but I didn't get my cert in the mail yet. So I just want to sign it before I push it out there, and because that's how I try to roll these days. And so I will push that out there as soon as I have it signed, hopefully by Monday, Tuesday next week. You'll see debug PX up there on the community as well, as a few other ones.
So there's a question in the chat room going back to the setting up a new repository. Do you know if you can specify credentials?
No, to connect?
Yeah, because we're tossing around the idea of creating an internal repository and then controlling what's on it, and then, of course, controlling who can connect to it, with which to install software.
So there's no credential on install module, but I'm wondering if it's on when you actually connect the repositories. Register.
Yeah, there's register PS repository.
Okay, Okay, so register is about picking where the repository that you've created is, and then I don't see any credential commandlets on any of these, or any credential parameters.
Interesting.
On any of these right now, which is
yeah, that's weird. Because correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, all we're doing here is essentially pulling down an XML file over HTTPS. You know, it's probably an IIS server, but it doesn't need to be. And there's running some server to do some of the the web service management of the uploading packages or whatever. So a little more to it, but you'd think it'd be almost trivial to do integrated authentication.
Yeah. So in this particular version, I don't see it right there, but it doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, maybe it's hidden behind the scenes in terms of how you set it up. But I haven't seen it myself in this particular command.
Well, hey, we answered the question. Doesn't seem to be there out of the box. So, but if people, I mean, we're still in preview mode, right? So people should go to connect.microsoft.com, go to the PowerShell page there, and suggest it.
Yes, totally agree. Well, the other thing is that it's interesting too. So this is just thinking off the cuff. If behind the scenes they're using invoke web request or invoke REST method or whatever they're using, PowerShell has got a way to you can set up you can set default parameters, right? So you can use PS default parameter values for so it makes you wonder, well, I know as far as let's say you're working behind a proxy server and you're trying to get these things working, they don't have specific commands or parameters to allow you to work around a proxy server, but that shouldn't matter if they're using invoke web request because you can just set the default parameter values that'll allow you to get through your proxy server, and then internally it'll just work like magic. And I use that solution in some modules that I have that consume REST APIs. It's great because behind the scenes, as long as you are not invoking things at the level of .NET and you are doing it through the PowerShell commands, which I believe that this is, I'd have to go chase down the code to make sure, then you can just set the you can set the configuration automatically and for your proxy server as a global configuration, and then it'll just work. And so I wonder if there's something that can be done in that area through credentials if it's not baked in out of the box. I'd have to dig in and see, because I know credentials for websites get sticky because you deal with headers and how you'd actually set that up without trumping other header information that's doing. I don't know, but it'd be worth investigating to see if they don't have it there.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, awesome. Anything else you wanted to cover? I think we went through all the questions in the chat room, which is great. Thank you, everybody, for participating there.
Are you speaking much lately, Kirk?
I've got some stuff coming up. So I did some sessions earlier this year. I went to Tech Days in San Francisco. I was in a Tech Ed, not on a speaking capacity, but just as an attendee.
How was Tech Days, by the way?
Tech Days, it was great. It was a great event. I'd never been to that event before. Ed Horley is one of the organizers. He's a great guy and good crowd. It was in the Microsoft offices right in downtown San Francisco. I hadn't been there before. So it was a good event, good sized audience, and it was fun to get to see San Francisco while I was there. And I've got some events coming up. So in November, the second week of November, I'm going to be at the Midwest Management Summit, which is, they're trying to tout as the new MMS. They're trying to pick up on the
that's the one in Chicago?
That's the one in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
So at the Mall of America in Bloomington. So they're doing a summit that's focused on on service management and Windows management, and so I'm going to be going there and doing a couple talks on. One of them is going to be on Service Manager with PowerShell and SMA and the things you can do there, and another one's going to be on PowerShell module best practices, because I spend so much time running modules and I've kind of put together my own list of best practices. It should be a really interesting event, because something that they're doing that's really unique that I haven't seen at an event before is they're having a 50, that's not me saying 15 and pronouncing it incorrectly, 50 minute Q&A sessions for every session.
Oh, wow.
With the intent being that every session should strive to be as interactive as possible, and they want multiple MVPs and experts involved, if not in delivering content, then in the room to have Q&A and help the conversation go. And so that'll be a new experience for me, because I'm used to sessions that are 60 minutes followed by 15 minutes of Q&A, and then you have side discussions after the fact. But this is 50 minutes for every session, so I'm curious to see how that'll work out.
It won't work well if people don't come with questions.
Well, that's right. But it's.
But if you set the expectation up front,
that's exactly it. And
yeah.
I know I'll have in my back pocket content that I will use to continue the discussion specifically for that event, so if people are there and they've seen the content I present and then they don't necessarily have questions, then I have things that I can bring up as a discussion points, especially for stuff like PowerShell modules best practices, because best practices is so subjective and there's really no authoritative source out there for that stuff. So I can only base it on what I've seen, what I do myself, what I've seen other MVPs and PowerShell team members do, and try to put that together as a good value proposition for those attendees. But that's something I expect to get a lot of discussion out of people who have worked on modules, because it's I think it's an important subject, because the sooner we come up with what would be, I guess, more of a definitive source of best practices, the better. And then for the other one, I'll just have a lot of SCSM tricks and tips in my back pocket to show people and see what they think, and SMA stuff and Azure automation, and find out where people are going with that. And me and myself in front of that command prompt, I can talk for a long time and show people lots of interesting things.
Yeah.
So that should be a good event. Guys, that's just where speaking stuff goes right now, and then I'm trying for some different things next year, like Systems in the Universe and the PowerShell Summit in April next year. I've got some sessions I'm hoping to get accepted in, and I'll try, of course, for whatever Tech Ed Uber ends up being called, and we can go from there.
So I just want to let everybody know that in the time that we've been talking, since you mentioned Azure, I have spun up a Windows 10 server, Azure VM, and just connected it, and now I have the ISE is opening right now.
Yeah, it's very fast. I was surprised. In my environment, there seems to be one bug with the Azure VM showing it's installing the connections or extensions. I forget what they call them, but anyway, at the end of the VM setup, mine sits there and looks like it's busy trying to install this VM extension into the VM, and that still is there even after a day. Yet I'm able to connect and use it just fine. So if it looks like it's hung up, try connecting anyway, because it should just work for you. It doesn't take very long, and then you can jump into PowerShell version 5 and IDC's on there and play with that goodness and PowerShell Git, and start trying to get some values out of those. And one thing I want to call out is that module I mentioned that only has 2 commands that I find highly useful. I want to get some feedback on it. So as of, I'm suspecting Monday, maybe Tuesday next week, once I get my certificate and then sign this module and get it up there, there's going to be a debug PX module up there, which really only has 2 core commands. One of them is breakpoint, and the other one is if debug. And I get so much use out of this. I so think, why didn't they break this in the product in the first place? Because it's just so valuable to me. Breakpoint is a command that allows you to invoke a breakpoint on the line where it's called, whether the file is saved or not. So typically, if you're setting breakpoints and you're doing debuggings in scripts, the script file has to be saved, and you set your breakpoint either through the ISE UI, which lots of people don't use. There's people out there who want to stick in the native shell or in ConEMU or in one of these more feature-rich consoles, and then use maybe something like Sublime or Notepad++ or whatever for their editing, and those don't necessarily have ability to mark breakpoints in the file like ISE has, and why would you want to do all the jumping back and forth? And so this allows you just type breakpoint, and it'll put a breakpoint there. Or you type breakpoint and you give it a script block, and you put your condition, and it'll make that breakpoint conditional on invoking the content of that script block, and otherwise it'll keep on going. And so the beauty of that is it saves beyond your files, right? Or saves beyond your session. So day to day, I'm working on debugging modules and scripts over time. And if I hadn't finished doing stuff, or I've got some obscure issue that I haven't yet put my finger on, and I want to really make sure I catch it when I do, I can put the breakpoint more at the condition, where I want to monitor that, and then just leave it there. And then just work and work and work on it until, oh, bang, I hit it. And then I'm already in the debugger at that point, ready to work on it, regardless of over time remembering did I set the breakpoint or not. And so that to me is huge value.
That's very clever. I like that.
And it doesn't even, you can even do it ad hoc. Like if you type breakpoint at the command line, boom, you're in a breakpoint, right on the spot. So if you've got a small snippet, let's say you're using Shift F8, you're in ISE, you select a block of code, you want to run to see what's going on. Well, if you had a breakpoint typed in there as the breakpoint command and you just Shift F8, it'll stop on that breakpoint. And you're not going to get that from command breakpoint or from line breakpoints, which is what you get in ISE when you use the UI. And ISE has no UI support for command breakpoints, nor for conditional breakpoints, and this kind of gives you that one scenario that I don't use other breakpoints anymore ever since I got this thing working.
What was the other command in that module?
Oh, the other command is if debug, which is also great because PowerShell version 1 had this notion of run this command, and when you use -debug, let's say you have a function and you run the function with -debug, then anywhere inside of that function, if you have a call to write debug, not only is it going to output the debug string for you, it's going to ask you, do you want to suspend execution or continue? And that's great for PowerShell version 1 before they had breakpoints. Ever since PowerShell has hit version 2, it annoys the heck out of me, and I never use write debug because I never want to be prompted, do I want to stop when I'm calling write debug? I look at write debug as being able to put out richer debug information that helps me troubleshoot something, and something that I might want to bake into a script that I give to a customer, and if they have a problem with it, then I tell them to run it with -debug, and it spits out stuff that maybe means nothing at all to them, but gives me back more rich object data and context around what's going on in this module I have out there. So to solve this, I wrote if debug, which takes a script block, and the entire contents of that script block will be skipped. It won't be invoked. It won't cause any performance issue. It'll just be completely run over if you're not using -debug, or if you don't set your debug preference to something other than silently continue or ignore.
Okay.
And otherwise, everything it produces automatically goes to the debug stream. Even if it's object, even if it's a string and I didn't type in write -debug, it all goes to the debug stream. So it gives me this vehicle to include context that I couldn't otherwise do, that I don't want in verbose, because verbose to me is a different intent. Verbose is I'm a customer and something's going wrong, and I might be able to figure it out myself if I only had a little bit more information. Whereas debug information is more something's really wrong. I really want to bloat the output from this thing so I can get that level of information that gives me the context I need to figure out what's going on, including object data, including testing additional things I wouldn't normally want to test because I don't want to slow things down, and all that stuff. So this if debug block is almost like what compilers have, being able to compile stuff out, right? If debug by default does nothing, but if you run a command with -debug, you get whatever is in it outputted to the debug stream.
Very cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So that's the one that I'm most proud of, I guess, in the work I've been doing lately, just because of the usefulness and because of how I apply it and use it and everything else I'm doing. So I'll hopefully have that out early next week. And then, of course, please send me feedback. I mean, I'll have all my work I publish these days, I publish up on GitHub. And so you'll have a link from the PowerShell Git repo to the GitHub page and be able to go into the GitHub repo and give me feedback that way and let me know what you think.
The sessions that you're doing in Minneapolis, are those being streamed or recorded? We had a question about that.
No, I don't believe so. I think that this year it's on-site only, which so you'd have to go to be able to get that content. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. When I last checked the communication about it, somebody else had asked. There are session content that I do try to deliver where I can at other events as well. So if you don't get to see it at this one and you're interested in seeing it, then hopefully to catch me at another event, whether maybe it's PowerShell Summit next year or something else, where I'll be able to talk about those too.
Anything else, Hal?
No, I'm playing around with the repository now, so if you'll excuse me, I've got stuff to do. This is quite cool. I just have been playing with Find with Git PS repository, Find module, stuff like that. I did notice that Find module prompts you to install a NuGet executable when you run it for the first time. Yes. So that answers the question that was in the chat room, that it's using NuGet, the NuGet client behind the scenes.
Yeah, automatically just prompts you, and then just hit Y, and it'll install the bits that you need, and then away it goes.
Yeah,
of course,
this is really good stuff.
Since it's all CTP too, make sure you guys share your feedback about it, because I think this feature is crucial importance for the PowerShell community, just in terms of sharing content, and if you find issues or if you find opportunities there, then make sure you speak up and share it, because the PowerShell team definitely wants to know.
Okay, we do have one last question for you tonight. And the question you get this time around is, what is your favorite sci-fi book? Or I guess it doesn't have to be sci-fi, but...
It's a good question. I, to be honest, don't have a lot of time that I spend on reading books these days, but I just recently read one book which wasn't sci-fi at all, and I totally loved it. And that was a Veronica Mars novel, because I'm a huge fan of the Veronica Mars show, and then they made a movie, which I really enjoyed. And the reason why I enjoy the novel so much is that I can see it. I can see 100% of it, because I know the characters on the show. I know their expressions. I know their mannerisms. And so being able to read a novel with these people is a lot of fun, because once you get that connection with watching a show for a couple of years and then being able to continue to be able to see them in your mind's eye, I guess so vividly, was a real treat. I really enjoyed it. Couldn't put it down. Other than that, novels in the past I've just loved, as far as sci-fi novels are, Lord of the Rings series was just incredible and still stands on probably the heap of my favorite list of sci-fi novels to read. Well, fantasy, I guess, more than sci-fi in that case.
Yeah, I seem to go in cycles where I'll read a bunch of fantasy in a row and then a bunch of science fiction in a row. But lately, I've not been reading too many novels personally.
No, I read.
What about you, Jonathan?
Business books.
Let me think. I'm reading a Scott Sigler novel right now. And what did I read? Oh, I read Ready Player One, finally, recently.
My son's been bugging me to read it ever since I got him to read it.
I enjoyed that one a lot. Yeah, that's about it. I'm behind. I've got a Daniel Suarez book that I still need to read that came out.
Oh, are you?
And I haven't read any of Mark Rusinovich's books, and he's got like 3 or 4 of them out now. So yeah, they're on my list.
Influx was is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, I haven't read Influx yet.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I finished that one, I don't know, a few months ago. Something like that. Yeah, and I've not read all of Rusinovich's books, but I've read 1 or 2 of them.
I end up spending so much time either working on PowerShell stuff or learning new technologies like Ruby or Python, or spending more time with JavaScript and then business book reading that I don't know where to fit in recreational reading.
Yeah, me too.
I know what you mean, man. Well, Kirk, thank you very much for coming, especially on short notice, spending time with us. Everybody learned a lot tonight, so really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is a real treat. I love talking to you guys on the show. It's been a long time. I could have been silent, but I'm coming out of my silent period, I guess, since I've been heads down working on so much stuff, and now I'm coming out and sharing it, and I'll be putting out a lot of content about it, so hopefully you'll hear more from me soon.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a good one. Thanks for dropping by.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Good stuff. Thanks, Kirk. Thanks, everybody in the chat room.
Oh, hey, I didn't mention it, but I guess it's worth just telling you guys. There is on the MVP blog. They put a call out for content for PowerShell related posts, and so I raised my hand, and so I'm going to be doing one on PowerShell Get, and that's supposed to be going out on Monday if I can get everything done in time.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah, so keep your eyes out for that too, and hopefully that'll go into a bit more detail once I've dug in deeper myself on some of these things that came up during this call. So this was actually a good source for me to figure out what kind of questions people have that I can try to answer on that kind of a post. So I'll share that with you guys once you have it if you want to throw it in the show notes too.
Yeah,
okay.
That would be good. Because trust me, it's going to be a while before I can post this show. I'm like 2 shows behind. It's horrible. I hate getting behind posting shows. Good,
because that means that I'll have also my modules out there by the time that this gets live too. So I'll send you some links that I think would be valuable based on stuff I mentioned here, and hopefully get that all in the show notes before you publish it.
Good deal.
How far out are you? Are you thinking like a week, like end of next week, or the week after that?
Yeah, it's probably going to be a week. I hope it's not more than that, but it could be 2 weeks.
Okay, that works for me. So I'll let you guys go. We're going to go, I think, unwind a bit and then hit this hay. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Good night.
All right. Good night.
And I've actually got to run too.
Yeah, me too. But this was fun, and the chat room certainly warmed up. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thank you everyone who came to participate.
Makes it lots of fun.
Yeah,
and my camera worked.
Saw some names in there I haven't seen in a while. That was very cool.
I know, really cool. So a lot of people bringing some authoritativeness.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just pestered Alan Renouf. Now he's got another reason to go to modules, from Snap-ins.
Nice.
Can't be. We can't have install -module power CLI until he's got a module.
Right. Okay.
We'll see. Keep working on it.
Well, good night, everybody. Take care.
All right. Later on.